We're coming out dangerous.
Rockets going off.
Sometimes the brightest stars shine for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They heard us all across Tallahassee after that one.
We got to bring home the W.
Oh yeah, we're gonna destroy them.
Put them on the Heisman watch.
They're fine, man.
Big Ten Player of the Year.
We're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I played a little adult league, goalie.
I felt like I scored in the World Cup, but I didn't even score.
Controversy? Question mark?
Pure chaos.
To go crazy was insane.
Chris Petley, he was the defensive MVP of the 2019 season.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in my prime right now. Let's go.
And welcome back to the TallySCtalk podcast on a victory week. The first big victory. Woo is right, Trent. The TallySCtalk podcast coming back from our first 3 points here this weekend. Trent, I would ask how you're doing, man, but I think I already know the answer. But good to see you again. But how are we doing, my man?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for asking anyhow. I appreciate it. But I am doing great. It is Memorial Day currently as we record this. I had a great Memorial Day weekend. We got our first 3 points in the NPSL. That was huge. We were there on the call and got to see 3 incredible goals. So definitely helped us in the goal differential that could play a factor later in the season. We'll definitely talk about that. But very grateful to be out there. Very grateful to have seen the performance. Bruno, everyone on the team. Easily our best game of the season thus far as a full team performance, going the full 90 minutes. Great game from Wallum in goal. Looks like he might be the keeper going forward. He had an incredible match. Had some great goals from Levi Nasimba, Justin Lay-Aird, and we also have one from Semi Friedrich. So just keeping the mantra of, next man up. Whoever's going to score the next goal is going to be somebody new. So it's pretty cool to see. We've got 10 goals and 10 different goal scorers thus far. So, yeah, man, feeling great. And it's just a great victory Monday, man. How you feeling?
Yes, sir. Sentiment echoed here, Trent. The big 3 points this weekend, 3-0 over Florida Roots. Able to get a little revenge game, Trent. So working well on a lot of different levels. We talked about it being a very gettable stretch. We have a 3-game set. Of course, Saturday was the first. This is a roughly 14, 15-day period where we have 3 matches. It's this past Saturday, this coming Saturday, and the Thursday game on the 10th of June that we said, realistically, if we want to be in the hunt, we want to be around, or a series of games that we realistically expect potentially 7 points from the mix here. And so the first objective was we had to get 3 here, because if we gave this one up to the Roots, the way things boiled down, we would have ended up bottom of the table. We had a couple big upsets here earlier this week in the later games. I wouldn't say early this week, but in the later games on Saturday night after we concluded TSC versus Florida Roots. Things are looking up, man. We got some help in the table a little bit, and we helped our own cause as well, set us up for this big-time stretch. So I'm very excited and just great for the boys, man, because they've been busting it. We said we possibly could have had 2 wins so far here through 4, but they finally got it, man, and deserved. And we had a pretty solid crowd. It was a holiday weekend. I was very surprised. Final number is going to be north of 500, so definitely not our highest of the season, but that is an honest-to-goodness number. We're not just throwing up numbers just to look good, but the people that were there got a show. 3 big ones in the net, man, and kept the clean sheet, which I think was valuable too. First time we kept a clean sheet. Obviously, you talked about the first victory, but start to finish, dominant effort and score very reflective. Maybe even could have got a couple more in the mix, which would have been great, help that goal differential, but we've essentially dug ourselves out of that hole because it was really rough after the 3-0 defeat coming off Southern States. You're wondering where the team psyche-wise is going to be at. Obviously, they're one of the best teams, and we saw that reflected in the matchup there. But, of course, on the other side, you got to play everybody in the league, and so that's how it goes. But on the other side of that, being able to bounce back and flip the script, we essentially completely canceled that game out. We lost 3-0, we won 3-0, and we got 3 points out of that. So really excited going forward. We talked about the joyous feelings, and like we said, victory week, coming off the first win, a lot of big-time things, a lot of first-time things that we're going to get into for sure, and tons of excitement. But it was good to get a little revenge game against the Roots. Feel like they had it coming too, man. What are some other big-time impacts for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that was a game we thought that we could have and should have won the first time we played them. So it was lucky, I feel, to get a rematch with them so early on in the season, just our fifth game. Canceled out that loss from last week, tough game against Southern States. But again, they are in second place now. They're sitting at 12 points. Tallahassee has 5. This upcoming Saturday, we will be playing New Orleans, the Jesters. They have 4 points. So they have played 4 matches. They've got 4 points. They have the same points per game thus far. And that's a stat that Chris Petley is infatuated with, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely loves the points per game. Hoping to get some more points per game on average after this Saturday against the Jesters, but definitely a match that we can win. They haven't been playing up to the level that we had anticipated early in the season, thinking that they may come in second or third in the table, but they're currently sitting at 6 behind us. So if we were to get this win, AFC Mobile currently sits ahead of us. So if we were able to get this 3 points, we have a game in hand on AFC Mobile. And what that means is they have played 6 matches. We have 5. We've got that extra game in our pocket, in our hand, and we're going to be able to hopefully get 3 points this Saturday, pole vault us into that 4th and final playoff spot. Again, very early in the season, plenty of matches to go, but still, that's something to build off of. And we've had a couple of dogfights thus far, so to still be in playoff position after everything we've been through 5-6 games, I think that would bode very well for the Battle Lions.
We talked about being in some dogfights and how this was a crucial positioning or time to be able to jump up, but at the same token, there's still a lot of games to be played, about 2/3 of the season. You break it down, we crunch the numbers, Trent, 33.91% of the games have been played, so 34 to the layman. So we're right about that third mark. So still a ton of action. Obviously, of course, ourselves, we have 9 matches to be played. We've played everyone. By the end of next week, we'll have played everyone except AFC Mobile. Of course, with one of those quirks in the schedule, they will be the only team that we haven't played, and obviously playing the Roots twice, but it'll be good because we won't really get to know where everybody is until everybody's in that 7 to 8 range. They won't have played every single team, but we'll be able to average out the results because we see here early there were some upsets, but one thing that you pointed out correctly so was we came into the season, we thought it was going to be Jacksonville, New Orleans. They were going to run away with things, and everybody else was kind of picking up the scraps. Then once we started to get a little more intel in southern states, even before this season, but obviously when the season got rolling as well, they kind of proved that basically their imports that they had coming in and the quality that they had, and obviously we know hosting them and dropping it 3-0, that is right on our doorstep here. But all that to say is wide open season right now, and this is a gettable stretch, and if we can get up there in the conversation and make some battles through some things and persevere through that adversity, we'll get it going, man. But checked it off, got our first victory, so that's no longer on the mind, and we can continue to persevere here. But getting back to the game Saturday, Trent, let's talk some wins within the game. Obviously got the 3 goals, which was huge. Kept the clean sheet, like we said, which was huge. Got the 3 points, which was huge to pole vault us in positioning for the future. So it's not a win-all or a lose-all situation that we had this week. But we're there in the hunt. We're where we want to be. Could have been better. Could have been worse. So, but we keep on trucking, man. Like we said, 9 matches to go. But tell me about Saturday specifically, the biggest impacts or the biggest storylines that stick out to you.
So Saturday is really a game of first on a lot of fronts. So we had the first win of the season, obviously, first win in the MPSL. It was our first clean sheet as well. And Sammy Friedrich, Justin Laird, and Levy Nasimba all scored their first goal. So really awesome to be out there, to feel the atmosphere, the fans, even though it was 500, a little less than we've had previously. But again, they were on their feet the majority of this match. They were back in the crowd, standing ovation when players got subbed off. I mean, this was the game, we talked about last week that we had to get, the old adage, you want to get 3 points at home and tie on the road. So we were able to actually do that this time, fortunately for us. And yeah, I mean, just a lot of cohesive play, very fluent game. It started off defensively because the Roots had the ball first. And number 9 for the Roots, Ricardo Smith, they immediately send him the ball over top. We head it down, cancel it out, ball bounces out. They have a throw, big throw again, going right to Ricardo. But we had 2 defenders on both sides of him, like on both hips. Sometimes one in front, one behind, just making a Ricardo Smith sandwich, if you will. And, it was really awesome to see because we had a lot of first-time players on this team. A lot of our normal starters, Drew Daunt, Mike Zamore, David Monroe, Aaron Wimberly, a lot of these players were not with us in the 18 at all, not even to be subbed on. And so obviously Monroe was a part of the 18, if I'm not mistaken. He was injured, so I think that was just kind of a coach's decision. We didn't need him. A great debut from Sammy Friedrich. I mean, he was able to get a goal off. It bounced around one or two times off of the corner. Cameron Earls, I think, headed the ball over Sammy Friedrich just with a slam dunk off the header. And, we can go into all the goals here later on, but I mean, they were all quality goals and we definitely earned them. This was not a fluke by any means. We weren't getting any penalty kicks and there weren't any kind of questionable calls necessarily that, went into our favor that gave us a goal or anything like that. So this is just a hard earned 3 points. And that's exactly what we wanted everyone to come out on Saturday night to Gene Cox Stadium and see. And that is what the Battle Lions delivered Saturday, man.
Delivered they did, Trent. Absolutely. That was one thing that we talked about, getting it started early and often and setting the tone. But I think it started before then. When we dropped these lineups, man, you had the new players that you talked about joining in. Of course, we went with the 4-5-1, which is kind of our typical formation, our standard default, if you will. But a little bit of personnel, just like you talked about, and really had the scouting report down. And so credit Coach Bruno, Coach Joel, the staff there to be able to hammer that home, watching that film, recognizing it. And I don't know if I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, Trent, or if I'm just kind of realizing it or just being able to unpack the strategy. But the strategic analysis and given the fact that we were out of these players, I was so impressed with the tactics that we came out here. Like you said, Ricardo Smith very rarely could get a sniff of the ball. If he did, Peralta was jamming him up. Friedrich was jamming him up. If they tried to serve him in the air, Earls, who was kind of that holding midfield, defensive midfielder, who essentially acted as like a fifth fullback on the back line in some certain circumstances. We saw Earls win a bunch of head balls versus Southern States on the offensive end, arguably the most productive offensive player from last week. Why would you rip him and put him on defense, essentially? And that's exactly what Coach Bruno does. It worked out phenomenally. We talked about Schmoker. Formation-wise, he was out on the right wing, and, that's typically the most running position. So, hey, Coach, why are you putting your oldest player out there? He had the week off. He was fresh. But that works schematically excellently well because you have Schmoke, who's one of your best servers of the ball and placers of the ball, naturally in a position to be dumping it back into traffic. I thought that was phenomenal. And it also put him in a position, which we'll discuss later, Trent. I know a point you want to get to, of course, his role in the goal to start things off. But tactically wise, I'm all in. Bruno and the staff absolutely killed it this week, and the message was clear, whatever that was, because you can put a good plan into place, but if the guys aren't clear on what they're doing and they don't execute, then it looks like a nightmare. But top to bottom, the plan, the efficiency, whether it was because we played them, whether it was because we have good film on them, or we were able to see it, or whatever, the tactics were a huge win. May have already set them up for the 3 points before things really got rolling, Trent. But of course, the boys had to put it into the back of the net, which they did 3 times. How about that third time this season that the boys have bagged 3?
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. We both predicted that they would score 4. Kind of let up a little bit after we got that third goal. Time to kind of milk the clock and enjoy the win. And we didn't want to see any injuries anymore. There was, a pretty bad one on Bennett Mitchell, who actually played a phenomenal game, filling in an outside back. He and Schmoker interchanged a lot up and down the sideline. And Schmoker was getting back on defense, and we were making sure that they weren't going to send the ball out wide and funnel it into Ricardo Smith, which was kind of their MO the first time we played them out in Panama City. So, like you said, Bruno, whether it was just knowing the team, had seen him before, or if he had just studied a bunch of film, probably a little bit of both. But like you said, Cameron Earls put him at that defensive mid. I thought maybe Schmoke was going to fill in there. We were both kind of surprised to see him out at right mid, but, he was playing a very pacey game, was up and down that sideline, in on the action, on defense just as much as offense. And Earls did an incredible job at that defensive mid, that holding mid, was able to win balls in the air all the time, offense, defense. And so it was really awesome seeing Bruno take that strength of his, put it back there, and make sure that Ricardo Smith was not going to get that ball over top. So just a great performance, top to bottom, like you said, from the Battle Lions on Saturday.
offense, defense, goalkeeping, midfield, the backs, coaching, the crowd, everybody coming up big time wins, Trent. And of course, it's easy to give a lot of praise when you win, but that's what we're here to do, my man, and that's what we got to walk it through a little bit. But one of the tones of the game or the big disappointments was last time that we played the Roots, we feel like it was one of them that got away, right? Was because we go up, we bury 2 early goals, and then they come storming right on back, tie the game 2-2, even take the lead in the first half. Within 25 minutes of us going up 2-0, we're down 3-2, which is something you never want to see. But, Trent, that didn't happen this time, but we were able to get on the board first, of course, since we pitched a shutout. I know you want to talk about that first goal, man, and it did not take long at all. First half, they got us rolling. Take me through that, man, as I know you were feeling some kind of way about that first one that went in.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ball went out for a throw-in on the right side over near us towards the broadcast booth. So we were able to get a very good vantage point and see everything perfectly. Levi Nasimba's standing there. He's the center mid in this formation for the game Saturday. He's standing there. He's looking for Laird. And before he can even get the ball boy tosses the ball. Schmoke comes in out of nowhere up from behind Levy, grabs the ball, and in one motion takes the ball from behind his head, flings it forward as hard and as quickly as he could, just totally catches the defense off guard. The outside back and the center back both try to take a touch, try to clear the ball, whiff on it completely. Laird corrals it, puts it onto his left foot, and just curves it around the keeper. Colby's standing right there, gets a beautiful shot. If you haven't seen it, go on Tallahassee's social media and take a look at that because it was just a gorgeous finish. Great build-up play out of nothing. Schmoke gets the assist just 7 minutes back in his first game after the red card. Great stuff very early on to get that goal, bury that, and, yeah, really set the tone right out the gate for the Battle Lions.
The throw has created off some phenomenal pressure as well because that's what forced them to play the ball back out of bounds. So once again, coming after him early, often. We're going to go get this lead, capture it, take it over. But, yeah, like you said, Schmoke, he was ready for it, man. Last week, sitting on the sidelines, unable to get in on the action. This week, he made sure he got his money's worth, threw it in, like you said. And the old wily Wildcat, he was on it as well. It was like a renaissance for a lot of these guys. You got the 34-year-old Smoke out on the wing. Yeah, I wish we had some of those sports bras that the pros have, that they have the trackers that run the mileage and everything. I'd be interested to see how many miles the guys got in there. But, yeah, so you got the 34-year-old setting up the 27-year-old and a combined 61 years of beautiful soccer being played out on the field there. First TSC goal of the match, but absolutely gorgeous. Laird, like we said, was on top of it too, man. Touch was beautiful all night long. Left foot, right foot, chest, knee, head, anything that he could get a piece on that. Beautiful service and facilitator, and we talked about it early in the season about him being the number 9 and being able to work off that, and that was so well executed and so well communicated with the lineup here. And once again, going back to the lineup and the personnel involved, phenomenal. Very impressed, and what a way to start that game off and come back with a strong effort here because this is your third home game. You're 0-2. You can understand that it's against the 2 best teams, and that's okay, but to come back after that 3-0 game last week and put their stamp on it early. Huge from me. Loved it. And the way it was done, like you said, Trent, all 3 of these goals are nasty. None of these were gimmies or kind of those giveaway goals from the other team or, like you said, some kind of cheap call or some debatable call. These were 3 no-doubters, nasty ones, and just able to rip the net. But, yeah, Laird puts it on the left, like you said, curls it around. Gorgeous. Smoke goes off. Like you said, shout out to Colby, who got 3 beautiful shots of all 3 goals. Right place, ready, on top of it. Yeah, it was really impressive. And then they never looked back after that 1-0 lead, my man. But after that 1-0 deficit, didn't bow down now, did they, Trent?
No, they definitely had a couple of chances, Jupe. In the 27th minute, Wallem had 2 incredible saves, though. So there was one ball that was played through. It was just one-on-one, Wallem on an island. And he comes out, big slide out to his right, gets his hand on the ball. He could have got his head taken off, like we said. I mean, the attacking player was right there on top of him. I can't remember if he made contact or if he just jumped over him. But either way, could have definitely injured himself on that play, but was just very confident. That was his ball. He was going to get it. He saves it, goes out for a corner. And then right after that, on the corner, The ball is sent to Ricardo Smith, but it actually misses him. It hits number 3, Bourne, in the chest. Couldn't generate any real power or velocity on the shot. Wallum, right place, right time, right in the middle. Just falls right in his midsection, is able to keep it and start the counterattack. So great communication again from Wallum, something we talked about in the last match. Before he'd even set the ball down, he would communicate with his defenders, something he was doing very early on the entire 90 minutes. He went the full game this time. So that's why I kind of said maybe that's his job now. We talked about that last week as well, trying to figure out who the keeper is going forward. It looked as if Wallum is going to be the de facto keeper going forward, though, after this performance. But 27th minute, 2 great stops, making sure that they don't bounce back like they did last time.
That was something I've been meaning to ask you, Trent. Something that we had touched around is the goalkeepers. What's the status, the controversy? You've got a lot of talent at that position, where we are, etc. So I was going to ask you, does this performance help Wallum take a jump up in that? Or do you think that he was able to get a tentative grasp? And don't let me put words in your mouth, but from the conversation that you're saying, it sounds like, yes, he's grasped onto that or has a control or has an advantage maybe that wasn't previously there. Fair to say, or rationalize that a little for me?
Yeah, I would definitely say that that is fair. And I would go as far as saying that I would think at this point, it would be his job to lose. Obviously, the first clean sheet belongs to Wallum now. An incredible performance head to toe, didn't let up any goals, was on his toes, ready for any ball that came through, whether it be a shot, whether it be a ball going out wide that could have potentially been a cross or a shot, came out and got that. So I definitely think that it's going to be his job going forward. So we'll definitely see. I mean, Krambeck did have that finger injury, but then he came back and played the first half last week. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we were to still rotate everybody in, keep them fresh. But at this point, for the bigger games, the must-win games that we have on the schedule, which at this point in time, it feels like every game is a must-win, if we want to get up in those playoffs. But yeah, I definitely think it's going to be him going forward. What about you, man?
Yeah, I think it's still a little bit of an open season, but you can't argue with the great performance that he had here. And maybe it's schematically, and that's what I'm wondering. And the more I think about it, and maybe the more I am aware of the brilliance that is Coach Bruno and the way he's been throwing things down lately. As I said, Trent, whether I'm being rational or drinking the Kool-Aid, I'm starting to see this, man, or I'm starting to believe. And so maybe just depending on the defensive personnel, there's a flow. As that just happens sometimes. Some players communicate better with others and work well and flow, and maybe depending on what the matchup is, what the backline looks like, what the keeper folds into there, and maybe that's kind of a whole package because, yeah, Wallum had a phenomenal day, but man, the backline had a phenomenal day, and the defensive mid, like we talked about as well, especially locking down when you talk about Smith because we had to contain him. If you let him run riot, then you're going to get wrecked. He could be putting in 2 or 3. He's that dangerous of a player, and that's something we wanted to continue to emphasize of why this was so big because, like you said, Trent, he was causing trouble in the box, winning a lot of aerial balls, and that's what really jump-started them. All 3 of their goals last time that we played were all off set pieces. 2 off the throw-ins, and then the 1 PK, of course, is how they were able to get their goals, and so we kept them, for the large part, out of that. We almost did get burned on one of those kicks that you talked about, Trent, the one that dropped in the box that he almost got on, so that was great, but Wallum, excellent position. It'll be interesting to see going forward. I can see Wallum with the advantage, like I said, but I'm going to stay to it. I'm going to leave a little bit of a more open mind and kind of wait and see approach. Whether wrong or right, I think there's a couple more tricks in the bag, Trent, so I'm still waiting to see on that. So, able to get the first goal, able to withstand the initial response. So TSC, for the most part, largely dominating these first 20, 25 minutes and continue to press, continue to go forward, continue to roll on, man. How you feeling about the squad at this point in time that they're continuing to keep the foot on the gas?
Everybody kind of worked as one unit, dropping back completely together. Like you said, Earl's kind of dropping in, playing as outside back, coming in and sticking to Ricardo Smith, being kind of like that sweeper role. And I mean, just very compact defending as a whole unit. We even had a chance to talk to Sammy Friedrich on Instagram a little bit and told him he did a great job with the goal and everything. And first thing he did was shout out every other defender, Peralta, Bennett Mitchell. Cole Red came in when Bennett Mitchell got hurt. We also have Winuk on the other side going up and down the wing. And so this was a great performance. We had the midfielders dropping back, helping back on defense. And then when it was time to attack, everybody came up. Defense moved up as one. still held their line. Just a great performance from the defense. I think that is what allowed the offense to have so many chances and to get a little bit more space. And we were just on it as soon as we got the ball, sent it out wide and funneled it through everybody. Le'Aird, like you said, had some incredible passes. The touch on Le'Aird, I mean, I don't know if he was just fired up, ready to play on Memorial Day weekend. If he was, a little ticked off, he didn't get a goal last time against the Roots. Like you said, really was fighting for one there in the end of the game. But, man, he was on it that day. And as soon as he got his goal, he was trying to set up his teammates to get one as well. I mean, he just had the perfect flick-ons, either with his head, with both feet, chesting it, like you said, with the knee. Just incredible performance from Laird. And in the 31st minute, we were able to use some of that attacking prowess in our favor. We got that corner. And why don't you walk me through that corner, Juke? What happened on that play?
We're going to get some awesome service off that corner. So Fitzgerald lining it up, throws it right into the danger zone, and he puts it right on the goal line, dead center. You have big Sammy Friedrich in his first start. He's boxing out the keeper like a basketball player, and the keeper's got to reach over him. He's got to like Randy Moss him and throw the ball up and just try to get it not to Sammy. And so, but right on the back post, Cameron Earls is there, dunks it into the ground, and it's going in, but then just for insurance purposes, Friedrich comes rolling in, just buries that thing emphatically in the back of the net, go up 2-0. Everybody starts going off. He brings them all into the corner, nice little team celebration like you talked about, everybody getting in on it. But beautifully executed, excellent service, and we've talked about it all year, and it's just a matter of time before we get the rhythm and the movement on this. We saw a number of services into Earls, both live play and set plays last week, and then we see it again this week. I mean, Johnny and Schmoke are going to put in the area. This one gets dunked in, and 2-0 up, man, it was huge. And people went off here in the stands, as of course they always would, but that was an emphatic one. That was with power in many senses, not only physically being able to blast it in the back, but emotionally as well. You started to feel the wave and a relentless TSC. Boom, a couple more chances here for TSC going right off it. Looking for number 3 early here in the first half. Didn't, of course, get it in half number 1, but continuing to keep the foot on the gas, foot on the throat, knowing what happened last time and having that in your mind and not letting that happen again. I love the determination, the willpower, and everything going into that one to continue this process and do what needs to be done here. As I would say, it was a business trip, but of course it's just a usual day at the office, man, of course here at home. But the boys were fired up. I love the effort, and I thought TSC vastly dominated the first 30 to 35 minutes. Of course, with the 2-0 deficit, naturally the Roots would progress and clap back here in that final 10, and so we had a little more of a back and forth. But, I mean, we talked about that one free kick, the one corner, and the one opportunity that Ricardo had, that Joey P actually made a phenomenal effort tracking back and sliding to safety. Of course, he was offsides anyway, so it would not have counted. But just to be able to see that develop and knowing, even if the referee was sleeping on the job or was finishing up that hamburger there on the sidelines or some of the tacos or other great treats that we had out there at the stadium last week, that we would have been covered. Joey P's got our back, but great to see Trent. So dominated first 35 and excited that we got to halftime there at the break up 2-0. Didn't concede before halftime, which is huge because one thing that we talked about in last week's podcast is looking back at the goals for that have been scored this season for the Roots, a very odd pattern. They have not scored after the 30-minute mark. All of their goals scored before the 30-minute mark for the entire season. If we could get to halftime and hold on, we could really execute down the stretch. Not to say that they're incapable, but that's a good earmarker. And we talked to Coach Hammond, of course, in our Behind Enemy Lines bonus podcast segment last week, Trent, about one thing is towards the end of the games, just with the short staff and the short roster size, that they were fatigued at the end of games. And so I think that has a lot of play with it. When you're trying to play catch up and go after that, you have to burn a lot of energy, and we were able to do that, apply the pressure, and make them work and have to really drain themselves in order to try to play catch up. So we had the advantage big time, man, and I was loving us staying in control and staying on top of it. Your thoughts of any other action there in the first half?
Just a great defensive performance again from Peralta, somebody who was named to the NPSL Team of the Week just a couple weeks ago, keeping that high energy and that momentum going forward and just locking down Ricardo Smith and anybody else who was trying to get in on that attack. They couldn't play the ball out wide. They couldn't play it over top. They couldn't play it through the middle. I mean, we just had them on lock. Possession, it felt like, was like 60, 70, 80% battle lines. I mean, felt like we were really pressing them out the gate. And like you said, they did clap back a little bit, started to apply a little pressure right before halftime, but we were able to finish strong, couldn't give up that goal. And that first half is that earmarked position for us to get into to make sure that we can get this win. And yeah, in the second half, we put one more in the back of the net. You want to go ahead and get into that second half action?
We can keep mowing it down, Trent. Yeah, of course, talk about the end of the first half. We actually had a pretty solid effort here. One got through, and Cy almost wrapped around it. It was like a diving, sprawling effort that he didn't have two firm feet, but another chance right before the break. The only couple chances that they had really down the stretch of the first half was into that triangle of defense, man. And if it wasn't Peralta, it was Winuk. If it wasn't Winuk, it was Friedrich. If it wasn't Friedrich, it was Mitchell. If it wasn't Mitchell, it was Earls. If it wasn't any of the defenders, Wallam's got your back. And the six-man wall back there was not going to let anything through. So TSC got things started in the second half of action, and then instantly, Cy and Fitzgerald, common occurrence, time after time. Fitzgerald and Fontenot, man, try to get one right off the bat. Cy rips a nasty one in there to get things started, and it really started to put the Roots on the back foot. They were pressing, and the relentless pressure. So they were forcing some things, and then, unfortunately, with some of those efforts or those sprawling opportunities of where they were able to launch a counterattack, came up with the yellow card. 52nd minute, a nasty challenge that chopped Bennett Mitchell down. Straight studs to his right ankle. Brutal. Couldn't see it live because it was so bang. We just saw him go down. But watching the replay, probably seen it about a half dozen times here now, Trent. Straight studs, referee, no doubt about it, runs over, boom, yellow card. Maybe a little warranted more. Maybe not, but definitely yellow on the table. No ball, no nothing, just straight ankle, and Mitchell goes down. So we'll try to continue to get updates, and obviously wishing him the best as we did in the broadcast there, Trent. But brutal, not only because of the phenomenal game Mitchell had had up to that point, just beyond halftime here, but just health-wise, as a person, man, you fell for him because he got rocked, and it was closer than it looks in slow-mo, of course, but studs up, man. When you're studs up, you're studs up. And if you're trying to slide, you got to think he's got to go down on his left or his right side there with his right foot pointed down, but it landed straight on Benny's ankle. But cool to see the team come together. You saw a couple of the older guys, I think it was Peralta and Laird, helping him off after he was down with the injury and walking him off, and he got some cheers there, well-deserved. And he was grinding out there in a Warriors effort. But you saw them come back with a renewed vigor, and I don't think a lot of people saw it. The thing was, Mitchell played the ball, and play was continuing, and so we were looking at the attack, so everyone was focused on where the new version of the attack was and continued to try to go forward and score. Because the challenge came in late, Mitchell goes down. It's not till after we hold up play that we see this is going down, but it was one of those things that couldn't be handled. You know, there wasn't a brawl that broke out or anything because people didn't see it, but I think if it would have been held up initially, there may have been, or if the ball didn't get through or went out of bounds and there was more of an immediate reaction or people saw what happened more, I think that there would have been, man, because that was dangerous. That was studs up, and that was directly to the ankle, and there could have been something going there. But I like how TSC handled it, helped him off the field. Obviously, nothing we can do about the injury now, but they came back with a vengeance on the field and gave it to the Roots. Really tough sequence to start half number 2. Thoughts?
Like you said, kind of a bang play live. It happened on the far side of the field, so we didn't get a good look at it. The fans didn't either. Maybe if it had been on our side, it could have been a red because the fans would have gone off, I'm sure. I mean, like you said, we slowed it down and we saw, but the ball had already been played. He didn't try to get into the path of the ball. We spoke of this before the podcast when we were talking. He didn't put a foot up. He didn't try to get in the path of the ball. He just waited for the ball to be played. I mean, he was on his way over there. He was trying to close Ben Mitchell down, but the ball was played, and he just really doesn't have any business going studs up, obviously ever, but definitely not in that situation because the ball was, I won't say long gone, but the ball had already left. He could have easily just stayed up, and it was not really even a full slide tackle. It was kind of just like a baseball pop-up slide. Goes straight down to the ankle, pops right back up, and yeah, it was just tough to see. He was obviously helped off, couldn't put any pressure on that ankle, but a tough trooper. He was out there hopping around on one foot, fist bumping everybody on the routes after the match. So, just a real class act from Bennett Mitchell. And I thought he played his best game of the season up until that point. Had a couple of nasty crossovers, broke a dude's ankle in the attacking third in the first half, made him look silly. Just a great game from Bennett Mitchell, not only offensively, but clearly defensively as well, keeping the Roots in check. So tough break for him. Hopefully he'll be back sooner than later. But again, like you said, wishing him the best. So that was really tough to see. But like you said, really renewed the vigor, came out very strong right after that. And in the 61st minute, had a delight. Levi Nasimba, a player we've talked about, possibly who's next, one of the players who's going to get his first goal of the season. Somebody who was playing centrally, normally plays out wide, but Levi was coming at him all game, had some of the dirtiest dribbling I've seen him showcase all season. I mean, nasty step overs, snaking it around defenders, poking it around him, hauling tail to get around the other side of the defender, get the ball back, sending it across. I mean, Levi was on it this game. The ball was sent up over top by Friedrich. I couldn't tell if it was going to Levi, if it was going to Cy. It looked like it was going to Levi originally, kind of just tail over towards the middle of the field. That's where Cy was at that time. He's able to get to it first, has a perfect header to Levi, and the keeper's coming out trying to stop this before it gets too far. Cy heads it at the perfect time. Beautiful assist. Hits to Levi, and Levi just has a rip open net, and he buried that ball, man. That was an awesome finish. Great build-up play, great ball from Sammy Friedrich in his first start. Really comes down to that ball from Cy, and just gave Levi the perfect opportunity to slot home his first goal of the season.
With confidence. Yeah, that was gorgeous. It was just a little pass around out back, nothing big going on. And then all of a sudden, Sammy Friedrich says, let me take a rip at this. Bam, just dumps it over the top. And we had a lot of good chances like that because we have a lot of guys that can run onto the ball and chase it down and do some big things, as we talked about the wingers and the central midfielders being able to kind of shoot up those gaps to either side of our number 9 that we usually have the one up top. Of course, they aired there Saturday night, and that was just one of those circumstances. Launch it up top. Hey, our guys are better. They're going to go get it. They're going to take care of business. Keeper has to come out. He's got to try to stop the ball because Levi and Cy are going to make this happen if he doesn't come out. So he says, at least give myself a chance. Cy's like, nah, not this time, bro. Heads it over. Like you said, Levi buries it. So it's cool to see so many chances that Levi had. Just great to see that he was able to get one in. Phenomenal for him, and that really sparked him as well and continued to spark the offense because we weren't done yet. We didn't bag it in, got a number of chances down the stretch all the way up, even until stoppage time, that we continued to try to break them down, but you saw Levy's confidence skyrocket, and he did a couple nasty moves on the far side and was really more assertive offensively. We talked about it. He's just one of those players. He's streaky, just like a streaky shooter in basketball, Trent. Once that guy sees the first one go through the basket and he starts ripping them. So I think Levy's about to go on a tear, man. So watch out, Narlands. We got you on Saturday. Watch out for number 10. Or don't. Don't watch him if you're listening to this. Let him bury a hat trick or two. Levy, obviously, great performance, like we said, but really, really cool to see him get one. And Trent, that was goal number 10 of the season and our 10th different goal scorer, my man. Continues to baffle me, the fact that we can pile up so many goals, but yet no one's able to get a secondary goal. Really cool to see, but also something that, Trent, I know we can speak to a little bit is just with this strike force. Talk about the strike force, Trent, and something that we have discussed time and time again. So many goals, so many different players. You wonder if we're just going to have all 25 to 35 guys that have tried out and been a part of this team. Everybody's going to get one. Keepers too, maybe.
At this rate, yeah, why not, man? And that's what's really cool to see. Something we talked about at the beginning of the season. There are a lot of attackers on this team, and we're using them in different positions, dropping Earl's back, playing defensive mid because Wimberly's out, using his skill in the air to dominate possession, win the ball, and just pretty insane. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a soccer club with 10 different goals, 10 different goal scorers. So something that will definitely take care of Tallahassee, something that I think we're very proud of. And see a lot of the players who have already scored getting in on some assists, really setting their teammates up. And if we had more time in this match, Carr Davis came on the 83rd minute, Matthias Betancourt came on the 88th. Those are two of our boys. We've just been waiting on him to get back, and he had a couple shots even. He could have scored in just the 7, 8, 9 minutes he played there at the end of the game. And he almost had one where he ripped it, and I think it just went over the crossbar near post. Not afraid to let it fly, Kari Davis. And so hopefully we'll get to see him moving forward a little bit more now that he's healthy fully. And Matthias Bittencourt, another young player that hopefully can get in there and get some assists, get some goals. Yeah, man, I'm just loving how everything's shaken out so far this season, getting all these different goals. And you definitely need goals to get wins.
Wins, plural. So I'm excited for us to add to that total here on Saturday. Number 2, baby. That'll be good. That'll be good. But, yeah, love the youth movement getting in there as well. You know Bruno likes to empty the bench, make sure everybody gets in there. But added experience here for Bittencourt. Kari finally gets back and is healthy. And, man, he hit the ground running. He was in there for, I believe he came in the 83rd minute. And he had at least 3 to 4 chances or 3 to 4 touches in that span, running around like a man possessed out there. So you could just imagine with another week of getting back up to speed and another week getting in the practice and getting in the flow with these guys of the kind of damage that he could do. So I'm wondering how Coach will set him loose here on Saturday, whether he starts or whether he gets some more minutes. But he can play anywhere, first of all, but especially on the attack. This could be a guy, and we could really ratchet up this high-octane offense and get it rolling. And you think about it, with a healthy Davis, with a healthy Monroe, Earls, Friedrich, proving some value. I mean, with the service that we get on a weekly basis, game in, game out from Schmoker and Johnny, I'm not just talking about open play, Trent. This is a team that could be so dangerous on set plays, on corners, on dead balls, really anything on the opponent's side of the field that gets held up could be potentially a scoring opportunity. And you mix that with the pressure and with the quality that we have on this ball club, I don't really see a circumstance unless we're just totally thwarted and just go against a rock-solid defensive team. But there really hasn't been a team to this point that's been able to slow us down. Of course, Jacksonville really dominated that first half, and they really kind of controlled pace and tempo, and so we didn't have much linkage there. I think that's probably the least amount of offensive chances that we generated and still had an opportunity to tie that ball game. We were able to get some against Southern Stars, obviously shut out, but some quality chances that we talked about even last week in the pod there. And then, of course, scoring 3 goals in our other 3 matches. This is a team that's dunked it in 10 times, averaging 2 goals per contest scored, and I don't really see it letting up. This is a team that can score some more goals, and if we can continue to get clean sheets or hold them to 1 or 2, I mean, this is a team that could rip off some points, and they could stack these points up, both overall and per game, much to the chagrin of Mr. President, like we've noted. Of course, had a little side conversation of his disdain for the points per game situation, so that's why we love to pick it up, and who knows if he's listening or not, but just a thing of note. So, if you find throughout, or if you run into Chris, just as a little joke, you know, he's a kind-hearted jokester. So just make sure you bring up the points per game there. Give him a little elbow to the ribs there. Rub that one in. But Trent, this is a team by no reason that I see slowing up at all as far as goals per game. Whether that results in shutouts is another thing to be determined. And I think the defense and the cohesiveness is going to continue to develop. You know, because you talk about a run game or different other aspects in different sports of one thing that has to come together or is the hardest thing to put together is a cohesive back line and being able to work with that in the keeper and knowing just how many different back lines that we've had and, of course, the keeper switches just to be able to get a momentum. But, you know, winning makes everything look good. But I think it looked good regardless of the result. Very pleased, though. Very pleased. And like you said, these guys are getting the set plays down, too. We saw a nice one by Smoke again. That one by Levy that just barely missed the near post. He's about 25 yards out, and he whips it in over the wall and dumps it back down and actually skips off the tire, which is about maybe 2.5 to 3 inches, and he hits the tire just outside of the near post. So that was shades away from being a phenomenal goal. Keeper didn't even go after it. It was so nasty, and it just dove towards that bottom corner, didn't go in, but once again, talk about him being a man on fire. That's about it. Wire to wire. Finished strong, largely dominated every facet of the game. Our goalkeeping was better. Our strike force was better. Our possession was better. Our link-up, our long balls. We won the 50-50, the vast majority of the 50-50 balls. And the ones that we didn't win, we would get the second waves. Johnny, Levy would scoop it off their heads. Cameron was able to win those and then facilitate it back to our offense. For large portions of the game, we would not even have players except for Wallum, it seemed, in the back line that was dropping deep. The center backs not even be in our defensive third. Maybe they would break midfield every now and then a couple times, and they would have a couple chances every 8 to 10 minutes, but for the large part, dominated the time of possession, and the real attacking chances was something that was really in our favor, something that happened last time, but the chances we cashed in, nothing cheap. Talked about the yellow card that maybe could have been worse, but by large, refereeing vastly improved from the last time we played the Roots. And this is a team, I think, that needs a lot of open play, and their aggressiveness on the field gets them into a flow. And if the game starts to get a little choppy, it messes with that flow a little bit, and then they start to second guess and maybe get a little more self-conscious. Maybe I'm reading into it a little bit, but physical bunch, fights for every ball, scrappy, blue-collar team, like we said, time after time, and they're going to fight for every ball. And they finished this time. There was no way that they were letting the Roots get a result out of this one. And so super excited for not only the result, but for them, man. They deserved it. They earned it. And it took us 5 matches to get one, Trent, but we finally got the big 3 points. And how much better does the outlook look, the table look, and everything feel after those big 3 points, man? Something we talked about, but something that'll never get old, at least for the next week or so talking about, man.
This is a game, if we didn't win, we would have gone bottom of the table, obviously would have flipped with the Roots. They would have taken our position, not have gone as high to number 5 because they would have only had 4 points. But still, a game that we needed to win, and it pole vaults us back into that playoff picture. So we've got a big game this week against New Orleans Jesters. They are just behind us, got the same amount of points per game, even though they played one less again. So this is a game that we've seen them kind of not necessarily be in the form that we expected them to be in. Like you said, we thought we were going to be top 2, top 3, and here they are now in 6. And so this is a game where you could technically say we're favored to win because we are currently ahead of them in the table. We are at home, and they've got a long trip over from New Orleans, so definitely keep that in mind thinking about this game going forward. But just an excellent showing from the team. We got to see CP, Chris Petley, after the game. Congratulated him on the first win in the MPSL. He was stoked, very grateful that everybody came out and was there cheering the team on, and just hands down the best performance from Wallum all the way up to Laird and Kari Davis when he came in. Really excited to see this team come along. We thought maybe it'd be at least second half of the season by the time that the team fully got together. We established that normal starting 11, or at least the vast majority, 13, 14 players that were consistent. And here we are just 5 games into the season. And I feel like we've got our core 18, 20 players that we're going to keep on the roster. All of these guys are getting chances to play. Like you said, Bruno loves opening up the bench, getting everybody in there, letting the young kids get in on that action, hopefully adding to the score line late in the game. But yeah, once Kari Davis has another week of practice, feeling a little bit healthier, hopefully we'll get some starts out of him soon. And I think this can be a team that is going to be very scary on the attack going forward, especially now that we've got that back line on lock. Everybody's playing together, holding their spot, holding that high line. Nothing's getting past Wallum. I mean, it's just going to be open season on target for the other keepers going forward, I hope, man.
Yeah, the strike force is going to put those other keepers on notice, Trent. It's going to be open season, just like you said. They better be ready, man. Better be ready. Because as it stands, you talk about a team that's borderline playoffs, but we are tied for the second most goals in the league, Trent. This isn't just fake news we're selling you, or these aren't weighted goods. You think it's a game, but it's not. Trent, 10 goals, tied for second in the league. Of course, only Jacksonville has surpassed us. They have 14, but of course, it doesn't seem like anybody can stop them. We let up 2, Trent, and that seems to be pretty good, man. That seems to be the tied for the least amount of goals allowed, 3, 4 weekly. Those guys are dangerous, man. They're getting it rolling. But like we said, Trent, coming up here, we hope the strike force continues into the game coming up on Saturday. We've toyed with it. We talked a little about New Orleans, but let's dive a little deeper. See if these Jesters are welcome in our royal court, Trent, or we just got to kick them out and send them right back on home after the road trip, because they're going through a little tough stretch, and something we need to point out. They are playing a double fixture week this week, both of them on the road. Thursday, they will play 2 days before we play them. They will face Florida Roots. So they'll have to come about 3.5 to 4 hours out to Panama City during the week and play the Roots. Then potentially go back and then come back to Tallahassee again, 6 hours this time from New Orleans to play us on the road. So this is going to be a tired ball club and potentially coming in wounded and a team that's needing to play catch-up as well. This is a vital portion of the New Orleans schedule. They just came off of a 3-1 defeat at home against the Armada. They have Roots, us, Pensacola, AFC, and then us again, Trent, for the next 4 to 5 matches. And so this is an opportunity I think that they would think, if I was on their side, that they can get some results here. But at the same time, if they let a couple slip, a team that we thought would be definitely top 2, at the very worst top 3, could be slipping out of the playoff conversation. What are your thoughts about New Orleans or kind of the setup going into this game Saturday? Because we talked about the struggle of the schedule, that we had a little bit of a tough ask, and coming up after this little break here of this kind of 3 weeks at home and a nice little 4-game stack that we're hosting, and then we're going to get into some trouble. But, man, New Orleans is getting a raw deal right now, man, and it is looking rough. Could be right for the picking.
Absolutely, Joop. And like you said, so they're going to Panama City and going back home. I highly doubt that they're going to just stay in Panama City or come to Tallahassee a couple of days early, post up. I don't know where they'd be able to train out of town. Maybe they've got a connection, who knows. But, yeah, probably 2 different road trips within 1 week. Like you said, a tired, possibly wounded bunch. And they're going to be playing the Florida Roots. They'll be at home midweek, and they're going to be hungry coming off of a loss against us 3-0. So they're going to be doing everything they can to get a couple points back. So I think they easily could walk out of this week with only a point, maybe nothing, maybe a couple points. I mean, hopefully we don't draw with them. Hopefully we are able to take advantage of them being tired, and we're going to be rested up, get a full week's rest, and the squad's going to be looking a little bit back to normal. I think next week we're hopefully going to have Wimberly, Don, maybe even Monroe back. We'll definitely get you guys an update after we get out to practice and see what the squad's looking like. But hopefully we'll definitely be at full strength this week, and we'll be able to go ahead and take advantage of a very weak New Orleans team. And like you said, a team that we thought is going to be playoff bound for sure, falling all the way back possibly. They're in 6th now, and with a loss or 2 this week, they could easily be in 7th or even 8th place. If the Roots are able to get a win against them, they jump up. So it's going to be interesting seeing them going forward. But again, we've got 4 home games in a row. This will be the 3rd. Then we've got another one the following Thursday here in Tallahassee. So exciting to see. And we've got a chance. We'll be playing Port City after that. They're sitting in 7th. So this is a stretch. We've talked about it last week, the week before, where Southern States last week was going to be rough. Probably weren't going to win that one. They're sitting in 2nd place right now, just got their first loss, but they were on a win streak, coming in hot, 4 wins in a row after beating us. And then we were able to go ahead and take advantage of the Roots, a game that we thought that we could win. Going to keep that positive momentum rolling forward. In New Orleans, give Port City a chance to get 9 points in a row here, and that would get us in the playoff picture. We would easily be in 4th place, if not 3rd, depending upon how the rest of the fixtures shape up. But a really obtainable stretch here for the Battle Line, something we definitely got to jump on. Can't let our foot off the gas. Can't be satisfied with just 3 points. And I know that Bruno and the boys won't be, but still a lot of work cut out for us. Just a third of the way through the season, getting into the nitty-gritty now. The dog days of summer. It's going to be getting a little hotter, but I think we're going to be ready. Hopefully we'll be able to get some water breaks and keep these boys fresh and hydrated to get a couple more points, a couple more wins here in the next couple games.
Something that hasn't been a big picture are those water breaks, like you said. We found out officially the NPSL rule is both head coaches have to agree before the game on a water break, and evidently none of them were having it the last 2 weeks, and so we've gotten ourselves into the scenario. But it's hot, man. It's hot. We're playing soccer in Florida, dude. One of the hottest states in the union. Give the guys a water break. I know we got the 7 subs, and people will clamor on about that, but yeah, come on, man. So we'll keep him fresh. Bruno will just have to empty the bench. He knows it. He knows it. He knows how to do it. Done it well so far, so we'll take care of that ourselves. But yeah, Trent, this is a stretch, a 3-game stretch like we talked about. Last week, this upcoming week, and then the Thursday after that. Roots, New Orleans, Port City. Realistically, to keep us in the conversation, knowing the schedule at the back end that will have to come around on the other half of the loop around, that we'll have to get. Realistically, we need 7 points, and that's what's going to be in these 3 games. Boom, we got the big win, so we got that out of our mind. So now we're in a situation of the next 2 games, realistically, need a win to 1 and tie 1. Here, whether that comes against New Orleans, it's a win, or whether it comes against Port City. Because Port City's trending up right now. They got the big victory this Saturday. They had the upset. They entered the weekend last. Bottom last of the table. 0 points. Nothing. No results. Had an absolute gutting heartbreaker at home. Jacksonville came in after trailing 3-2 late in that game. 78th minute, they were up 3-2 on Jacksonville. 9 minutes, Jacks stole 2 goals and were able to win. But they took down AFC, who was the 3rd seed or the 3rd best team in the table coming into this weekend. You talked about it, Trent, about Southern Stars and about Pensacola and any given Saturday, man. So that's one thing. We have a favorable stretch, but just like Pensacola took down Southern Stars for their first loss of the season, a team that we thought was looking kind of invincible right now, they were able to get down there and take them down. So we want to make sure that New Orleans doesn't come in off the road trip weary from the road and take us down. Trent, of course, in a period of about 55 hours, if they do go back and forth to New Orleans Thursday, go back home, and come back to Tallahassee on Saturday, in roughly a 60-hour period between they leave New Orleans Thursday sometime, in about 60 hours, they will have done 20 hours of driving between the 2 fixtures back and forth. So going to the game, going back, staying in New Orleans, coming to the Tallahassee game, and going back. So they will be weary dogs, man. So we got to make sure we put those dogs on a leash, take care of business. And it's an opportunity for us to keep plugging along, like we said, man, slowly but surely. We can only get 3 a game, but how huge would it be if we could get 9 out of this stretch? Even thinking short term. So let's not even get too crazy. I'm looking at the schedule for this week right now. If we win, we could jump up to the number 3 spot. And I'm not just talking about raw points, Trent. I'm talking about realistic results. So you look at the table as it stands right now. Jacksonville, Southern States, Pensacola, AFC, Tally, New Orleans, Port City, Florida Roots. So we have 2 Thursday matchups. So before we kick off on Saturday, we will have 4 more teams in action to shake it up a little bit. Pensacola will travel to Southern States, and Southern States, who just got their perfect season wrecked by Pensacola, will play them immediately again 4 to 5 days after that they played previously. And, Southern States is going to be pissed at home, dude. So I am glad that we do not get in a situation like that because I feel like the Stars are going to bring the pain. So I feel sorry. I don't feel sorry for Pensacola, but they're going to get it. We anticipate a Southern States win there. Also on Thursday, like we talked about, New Orleans and the Roots. Roots are going to be pissed because we just shut them out. First victory. And the Roots, who also have a gettable stretch because they have New Orleans and Port City as well. Port City is turning out maybe to be better than we anticipated. So they're getting desperate because the Roots are sitting bottom of the table right now. They're averaging .25 points per game, sitting on 1 point for the season. They've got to get a big victory. So they could potentially give New Orleans some trouble, kick New Orleans down the table a little bit. And then you talk about the other teams that are above us. So the only ones that are catchable this week are Pensacola and AFC that are above us. Both sitting at 7 points, both 3 and 4 right above us, of course, have 5. So AFC's playing Jacksonville this week. Jacksonville been on a tear, leads the league in goals with 14. They're averaging almost 3 goals a game. They're averaging 3 points a game. Still a perfect season. Played 5, won 5. They're rolling. So really an opportunity for AFC to stay on that 7 line. And then you look at some of the other games. The Roots, they're going to play Port City at Port City. So both of those teams currently below us. So regardless of the result, even if Port City were to win, if we were able to get a result as well, we would still be with them on the tiebreakers, and so we would bump them up. But if we get the win, we would leapfrog both AFC and Pensacola, potentially, realistically, to go into a 3rd position. So obviously, maybe a little fool's gold for us to be 3rd here at this point, and we could drop a little bit jockeying with points and different results, of course, that we have coming up. But to be able to jump to 3rd after just being, in that 6-7 territory not too long ago and coming off a 3-0 defeat. What a 180, man. It's got you really excited. So a win against New Orleans could go very, very far, my man. So it's got me excited. And then just a point of note, Trent, how about that Monday game, that makeup game that was supposed to take place earlier this season? Southern States and Jacksonville are going to be playing on a Monday. So some of these teams getting into a real quandary, a real difficult corner that they're getting backed into with this scheduling and having to jam 14 games in a 8-team league in this summer schedule. And one of the reasons why we're doubling up here, a lot of teams will go 2 or 3 weeks straight with 2 games a week, man. We like to kind of open things up, not just talk about Tallahassee, but where we are as a whole, because ultimately, just like any sport, Trent, you want to give yourself a chance to win a trophy, baby. We got to talk playoffs, so we can't just talk about us. We got to talk about the rest of the table to see how we are positioned in there. And being able to get in that position, we just want to be in the race, man. Stay in the race until that crazy simultaneous match day, the last match day on July 10th. Either having locked a position up or be in a position to win and in. That's all we ask for, my man. So that's just what we're trying to plan. Budget, be realistic, and hope for the best with the battle lines, man. But anything else on the table talk?
You're talking trophies and hardware, talking about playoffs and winning the league. Well, we've got to also update everybody on the 850 Cup, man. This was a huge game against the Roots, another matchup in the 850 Cup. We took 3 huge points from the Roots, and they're still sitting. They have 1 from the draw that we had earlier with them. But now we have climbed all the way up to 5 total points, obviously with the draw against Pensacola as well as the Roots. Those are 2 points there, and then we get 3 points against the Roots. So we just got 1 more match against Pensacola. That'll be it for our 850 Cup. But 5 points through 3 matches, man. That's got to be looking good. We're sitting in first place in the 850 Cup. It was on display in this stadium, in Gene Cox Stadium, before the match. And, yeah, it's looking like it's going to stay there. We're going to hold on to that. And hopefully the Roots and Pensacola can draw each other next time they play, kind of split up those points. Nobody gets 3, and we can just sit in the driver's seat and coast on home as winners of the 850 Cup.
That's an important thought here, Trent, is absolutely staying ahead in the 850 Cup, thoroughly in the driver's seat. Of course, we're sitting on 5 points. The other teams only having 1, have not played each other yet, so that'll be interesting to see as that plays out. But yeah, 5 points in the driver's seat. Of course, we only have 1 game left against Pensacola, but looking good. Our goal differentials +3. We have 9 goals for in those 850 Cup contests. We're averaging 3 goals per game in each of those, and so that's boding well. We're still undefeated, but we only have 1 left. And potentially what we could see is the most dangerous one, or the one that would be the most entertaining race, is if Pensacola was able to get 2 results, or they were able to get 4 points out of their games versus the Roots to be able to match us, because that would essentially take a winner-take-all matchup in our next matchup against Pensacola. Excited to bring home that hardware, man, but we have an official word, because it started out as fictitious, but I have confirmed personally in the Behind Enemy Lines episode 10 of the last podcast, on record, we have Coach Hammonds, owner of the Florida Roots. He says, we are excited, we honor, and we value the rivalry games and the 850 Cup, and he said, really pumped to be a part of it. So it's legit, and we have confirmation that the other teams recognize it as well. It's not one of those weird, that UConn-UCF rivalry that nobody really cares about, that they're really trying to manufacture. This is a certified rivalry trophy and will be honored with hardware and will be valued by the champion, Trent. So can confirm that it has been done both first and second hand. Any additional thoughts here on the 850 Cup?
We're going to win it. That's it.
I say there's no further discussion then. So we talked about the table talk. We talked about a little 850 Cup, baby. So we talked about the future a little bit and prognosticating and thinking about what could be, dreams, aspirations, things of the future, Trent. But let's go back to the past briefly, because we mistakenly forgot our stars of the game.
Star attraction. Star.
The stars of the game here for TSC.
Star attraction.
We're going to give 3 players, of course. If you're new to the segment, new to the podcast, thank you for joining us on the various many platforms. Spotify, Breaker, any of the big ones. public radio, got you covered. Even on YouTube, if you like to dabble there. All that to say is 3 guys that we just want to shout out. 3 guys each, 3 stars of the game, if you will. Of course, phenomenal team performance. Can't go without saying. But what's your 1-star man of the match here from this past Saturday against the Florida Roots at home?
Coming in at number 3 for Trent Young this week is going to be Bennett Mitchell. Bennett Mitchell was incredible at linking the defense to the offense, pushing up, making sure he's covering ground, switching with Smoker whenever he needed to, and just a great performance defensively, making sure that none of those balls got in from out wide, closed it down outside, and then was also playing some balls in, making some runs in the box in the attacking third, just had his hands all over this match. He even took a dude's soul, broke him, fell down, took his ankles, and it was just a disgusting move. And, really unfortunate to see Bennett Mitchell exit the way he did. But hopefully, he's just out for a week or 2 and he'll be right back on his feet. We wish him a very speedy recovery. Bennett Mitchell, number 3 for me. What about you, Juke? Who do you have at number 3?
So you're staying on the back line. I'll go a little defense. I know we went offense heavy last week. First clean sheet, man. You got to give a shout out to the goalkeeper. Give me Wallum for my 1-star man of the match. Phenomenal performance in goal. Like we said, there were a couple ones. He just went out there like a wild man. Could have got his head ripped off on some of those slides that he made, but able to keep the clean sheet. So credit not only to him, but the back line. So I'm glad you shouted out Benny there as well. I'll give my 1-star and 2-star guy. So I'll jump up. Give me the captain, man. The ship goes the way the captain steers. Back in the lineup, of course, after serving his suspension of the red card, steered the ship well. Played out on the wing, up and down and back and forth. Like you said, working with Benny, working with the midfield, facilitating crosses, getting him into the danger zones, as he always does, and just a phenomenal presence. We missed him. We missed him a ton last week, Trent. But to be able to have Smoker back in the lineup, huge success, huge difference. Really goes far to get everybody on the same page. My 2-star man, the captain, Jacob Smoker. But who you got on the other side? Continue to climb up this ladder, man. Stars of the game, baby. We're getting to the good ones. We're getting to these top dogs, man. It's hard to pick from.
It is hard to pick from, and I love the Smoker pick. Again, I was obsessed with that assist that he had. I thought that was just a great heads-up veteran play, just really showing his knowledge of the game, right place, right time, getting the ball where it needs to be, and great performance from Smoker. So going to do kind of a little flip-flop. Normally, Levy Nasimba plays out wide. Smoker plays in the center of the midfield, I should say. At this time, Smoker out wide, Levy centrally, and I'm going to go with Levy as my number 2 player of the match. Levy, we talked last week, is a very downhill player, one of our best dribblers. This game outside of the goal could stand alone as his best performance, I thought, especially just from a dribbling perspective. I mean, these are some of his nastiest moves that he showcased for us. Step overs 2 or 3 different times and just making guys look silly out there. So Levy Nasimba had a great strike off of that side-headed assist, fell to him perfectly. Nothing he could do but rip it, put it in the back of the net, and it was just a beautiful performance from Levy. So I'm going to go Levy as my number 2 man of the match. For number 1, I'm going to go with the old Wildcat, the old wily Wildcat, we'll call him, Justin Laird. A man, our number 9, looking to get his chance and get that first goal. And Smoker found him perfectly. But even after the goal, this is a guy who I thought this was his best game as far as his touch. He was setting everybody up, corralling the ball, chesting it down to himself, dishing it out wide, finding the open teammates every single time he touched the ball, getting the ball in the air with his head. Incredible performance, literally head to toe from Justin Laird, showing why he's the number 9, why he's going to be in the mix going forward, giving us that burst of offense, earning those fouls right outside the box, putting us into deadly position to score. Justin Laird, hands down, number 1 man of the match. Who do you got for number 1?
I feel like I have to follow the pattern you laid down here, Trent. Of course, your 2-star man, Levy, was our 10th goal scorer of the season. Here we're 3-star man. Laird was our 8th goal scorer of the season. So you say, where's the number 9th goal scorer? He's a 3-star man of the match on my side. Sammy Friedrich, first start here of the season. locking it down on defense with that back line, working with Peralta, working with Winuk, working with Earls, working with Wallum, working with Benny Mitchell, working with all the boys back there, shutting down their big number 9, big offensive threat, Ricardo Smith. And then on the other side, you had the dunk of a goal. You know, Cameron may give him a little beef that he stole the goal there, but he looked excited that he got it in. And you have to get those in because a defender could slip in there and clear it out. Phenomenal service. Of course, he also, technically, I guess you could give him a hockey assist for the Levy goal, as he was the one that served it out of the back before Cy headed it up. So Cy's going to get this assist. Of course, it's called a hockey assist because it's not a soccer assist, because they don't have the double assist like hockey. But you could give him that, just like you could give Crombeck that Cole Red hockey assist at the first game in Jacksonville. So we are a pro hockey assist podcast, for the record, Trent. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the board. Semi Friedrich, phenomenal game, top to bottom. Really excited about his performance. And I wish we could just list off 12 more, man. We could give it to all 18, just as the official team did, my man. Even they couldn't decide, really showed the performance of the team. Tell us about that, the player of the match here for TSC, and what that was all about, Trent, and elaborate on that point a little bit for those of you who don't know.
Absolutely, Joop. So we do award a man of the match, player of the game after every game. And this week it went to the team as a whole. Bruno couldn't pick one player, and I don't blame him. I mean, it was tough to even come up with our 3 different players for the stars of the game. But yeah, excellent showing head to toe from the coaching, Bruno putting in the work, studying film and delivering out there, all the hard work that they put in on the practice field, turning that into results on the pitch on Saturday. And that's what it's all about. So you can't really hand it to just one person, honestly. It really was a collective team effort. As we said, that back line was very cohesive, moved as one unit up and down the pitch. And that really just braced the entire team, limited those chances for the Roots. So just an awesome game. I'll never forget it. Our first win in the NPSL, my first win there in Tallahassee in the booth with you. And yeah, just an incredible showing from everybody. And so that's why there wasn't one player as the man of the match. It was the entire team. And they put up on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, a video of everybody coming in, getting in on the picture, and everybody just jumping up and down, screaming, shouting, everybody having fun. And that's what it's all about, man. We've been waiting on this moment all season, and we finally delivered.
450 minutes and change to get the first victory of season football, Trent, but finally able to lock her down. So we talked about how we got here along the road. 3 more goal scorers this week, Trent. So that'll sum up our stars of the game.
Star attraction.
So, of course, we talk about a furious amount of goals, but we know there's more to come. This is a team that's averaging 2 goals per game, 3 goals per game in all 850 Cup contest. They're absolutely going off here lately. This is a team coming off their first victory, back in the playoff hunt, Trent. So the big question on everybody's mind, my man, who's gonna score next?
Who's next?
And who are you going to be sitting next to?
Guys who want it all. Chicas, champagne, flash.
Who's next? You're next!
And what a great question. And I'm so happy we have this segment and we're still able to do it because we still don't have anybody who's doubled up yet. It is awesome. But yeah, I mean, I really liked what you said last week. Actually, both of our picks last week is kind of where I'm torn between either Kari Davis. We saw him get in last 7, 8, 9 minutes, with stoppage time. And then I picked Corey Osgood, somebody who played a lot. I'm going to go ahead and say I think Corey Osgood, if he's able to get the start. If not, even if it's the last 20, 30 minutes, they put Kari in there. Dude, Kari's going to get one if he can play more than 10 minutes. I'm telling you. He, like you said, had 3, 4 really good chances, was just a thorn in the side of the defense for the Florida Roots. So if you give Kari some minutes, I think it's going to be his. But Corey Osgood has been earning his, so I'm going to go ahead and lean that way and maybe see him either out wide where Schmilk was or up top instead of Lair this week. But what about you? Who do you think is going to be next for our battle lines?
So you're going Osgood. So Osgood is your pick, just for clarification.
Final answer, yeah, sorry.
Gotcha.
Osgood.
All right. I like the discussion, the entertainment, and I've been on the train for 2+ weeks now, so I'm going to stay to my guns. Called it before Kari even got in the starting lineup. Obviously, he didn't play the week before for Southern State, so I was wrong. And then called it again this week, sticking to my guns. Kari Davis can be first off the board. We saw a glimpse, Trent. 7 minutes of glory and stoppage time. 12 minutes in the Davis Dome. that the Roots were able to escape without conceding Trent. But if we get a couple more minutes of that, I don't know if the Jesters will be able to hang out in our royal court, so we'll have to kick them back to New Orleans if Kari maybe puts a couple in. So, Trent, give me Car Davis is my selection there. But it leads it to the second half of the question that we kind of added on jokingly, but is now becoming something that we can continue on, and we have at least one more week. Who's next as far as doubling up a player that has already scored, but will be the first to score 2 goals? So, of course, you have 10 options, Trent, and we can re-go through them, or we can restate them in order if you need it. Can't forget about Cole Red. Game number 2, Cy Fontenot, David Monroe, Jacob Schmoker. And then we talk about match day 3, about Pensacola, Trent. We have Johnny Fitzgerald. We have Cameron Earls. And we have Christian Winuk at the death there. Then we talk about the 3 that we had this week. Justin Laird, Levi Nasimba, Sammy Friedrich. Your 10 options to choose from, Trent. So the question once again, who's next?
And I feel like this one is even harder because, I mean, all of these guys are in the starting 11. They're getting subbed on if they're not, so they're playing a lot of minutes. So it's definitely tough. I'm torn specifically between Cousin Cy and Levy. And as far as Levy getting that goal against the Roots on Saturday, that could have been his coming out party, going to be use that as momentum going forward. And like I said, outside of that goal, that could have been his best performance all season long. So easily could beat Levi Nasimba, but Cousin Cy, he seems to always have 2, 3, 4 chances himself, sometimes even a half. He was in there getting the assist. He could have easily been selfish, tried to chip the keeper himself, but plays it off wisely to an open Levi Nasimba. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Cousin Cy. Final answer. Who do you think is going to double up first, Andrew Joop?
Man, we must be hanging out too much, Trent, because we're exactly on the same brainwaves here. I remember saying it a couple weeks ago. When Levy gets one, he's going to start reining it in, and I'm going to continue that narrative. This week, I'm sticking with my guns. And so I'm going to say Levy is first to double up. I mean, can't fault you for the Cy Fontenot pick, the way he's been attacking defenses all season long. Levy's on it, man. I feel it. We saw the energy burst after he scored. There's no way they can keep that bottled up going through here this season. You see it time and time again, all levels of soccer, when a goal scorer, when a dude like that gets one, and then it just starts to click, man. And so I think he's just one of those bad dudes. And, of course, bad meaning good. He's just bad to the bone, and he's going to shred it up. I say that Levy's going to make Tallahassee feel like Mardi Gras, and New Orleans will have a real sad time. They'll have to get some coping Fat Tuesday donuts on the way home for that 6-hour drive. That'll be some of who's next, Trent.
Who's next?
So we said who's going to score next as we wrap up this segment. But, Trent, we forgot to get into it when we were talking New Orleans. We talked about these guys are going to score, but how many are we going to get, man? Let's fire off a little prediction. Tell me about what you think for the New Orleans game. Blast me with a score line and a little justification. Protect your honor, Trent, because we're both still waiting on one correct answer this season. Let the record show none of us have gotten a correct score line so far this year. But this is the week, man. 6 times the charm. Isn't that the old adage?
Yeah, I think that's what they say. But last week and even the first game of the season, I picked us to win 4-2. So I've got as high as saying that we could score 4 goals. We've scored 3 in 3 matches thus far. So definitely an obtainable mark, I'd say. And we didn't park the bus, but we weren't coming at them near as hard in the last 20, 30 minutes as we were in the first 60, 70. So that's to be understood, clearly with a 3-0 lead. But this week, 3 is the magic number. I think 3 is going to be what we top out at. I'm going to go ahead and take the chalk with 3. That defense played extremely well. We were very compact, and Wallum really was expressive talking to the defense. Everybody knew where they needed to be. I'm screwed, dude. We're going to go 3-0 again. I don't even give a crap. 3-0 again Saturday. Put it on the board.
Back-to-back clean sheets, he says. I like it. Put it on the board. And that'll be a fun one to see, hopefully. I was close last time. I guess 4-1 last week. I was thinking more 3-goal margin, but shame on me for downing the back line, which stepped up big time. Of course, Jacksonville beat 3-1 New Orleans last week on the road. I said there's no reason why we can't do exactly what Jacksonville did to them this past week, Trent. Give me 3-1 for the boys, 2 for Levy, 1 for Kari. A big scoring attack here for the boys letting to get on and who's next. So I got to support myself in that, Trent. So you say 3-0, I say 3-1. I'm feeling good about it. We might even get a 6-0, 6-1. We'll see. But an exciting one, Trent. But any other comments or commentary before we wrap this up? Because I feel like we got a pretty good, concise start to finish here of the match, the future, what could be, what can be, what is.
Yeah, one last thing I did want to add, Joop. I did not mention the 3 goal scorers that we're going to have Saturday. So Cousin Cy said he'd be the first to double up. We'll go ahead and put him on the board. Corey Osgood going to be the first goal of his season. So he's going to get one. And then I think your boy Kari Davis is going to come in clutch. It definitely could be Levy, but I'm thinking Kari's going to get a few more minutes. He's going to be out there at practice again, have another full week of practice. Got some game film now. Bruno's going to see how creative he was and how effective he was in the attacking third. And I think he's going to earn himself some more playing time with that performance. So give me Kari, Cy, and Corey Osgood to get those 3 goals Saturday.
Well, let's hope that it's 3 goals or more and 3 points, Trent. Should be an exciting one against New Orleans. Once again, 7 o'clock down at Gene Cox Stadium. As always, shameless promo. Come on down to the stadium, man. I know everybody's going to be back in town. You were on vacation this weekend, so we're okay with the dip in numbers. But we're going to try to get this bad boy packed up. This will be a very competitive match. Hopefully, the second straight win for your Battle Lions here. Come on down to the south side down there, Gene Cox Stadium. Great family atmosphere. Beautiful soccer to be played. Really fun environment. Kids under 12 get in the stadium for free. Of course, adult tickets are cheap too. Just 7 bones to throw down for that. Food trucks will be on premises to get you fed up during that halftime. Make sure you're able to cheer on the Battle Lions here. It's an all-local team. All of these guys with Thomasville, South Georgia, the greater Tallahassee area. These guys are from the area, for the area, and we should support them, and we'll continue to do so. The Battle Lions going to be battling out there against the New Orleans Jesters. We don't want those guys from the West coming in here and making us look bad. Put our stamp on the league, get back into the playoff position, trying to chase down third in the table. But once again, thank you for joining us. Shameless plug on our behalf, Trent. Check us out on social media at TallySCTalk, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. Of course, you can always search TallySCTalk on your favorite podcast provider. It will be available on most of those. You can give us a listen, binge those old episodes, and be excited for some more coming up. We're going to try to go behind enemy lines again this week like we did last week. So hopefully a couple more bonus episodes coming up this week. Questions, comments, concerns, feel free to hit us up if you want to have some topics of conversation. Maybe a little guest appearance. You got to hit that TallySCTalk Gmail, TallySCTalk at gmail.com once again to hit up the boys for some more items of discussion talking about your Battle Lions. This is your podcast for the community, baby. Not just us, not just 2 idiots talking about stuff and yelling at each other. So feel free to hit that up. We'll have some fun with it, as we always do. But once again, for Andrew Joop and Trent Young, thank you for joining us on the official podcast for the Tallahassee Soccer Club. It's TallySCTalk, baby. Have a good rest of your week and continue to relish those big 3 points from this weekend.